God calls us to awaken in Him, how will He find us when He comes?
Awake and ready.
And when He asks us to dedicate our lives even more perfectly, how will He find us?
Awake and ready.
Let's begin with the prayer. Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Friend, beloved God,
Friend, beloved God,
Great Masters,
Great Masters,
Lord Jesus Christ,
Lord Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Lahiri Mahashaya,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
beloved Guru,
beloved Guru,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
saints of all religions,
saints of all religions,
humbly we bow at Thy feet.
humbly we bow at Thy feet.
O Divine Mother,
O Divine Mother,
guide our lives,
guide our lives,
hold our hands,
hold our hands,
give us your grace
give us your grace,
to know your divine love,
to know your divine love,
to experience it in our hearts,
to experience it in our hearts,
and teach us to share it
and teach us to share it
with all whom we meet.
with all whom we meet.
We are Thy children, Mother.
We are Thy children, Mother.
Bring us home,
Bring us home
and make us one with that love.
and make us one with that love.
Oh,
Oh,
peace.
peace.
Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. gaze softly at the eye of infinity. Feel too, you can meditate on these words from affirmations for self-healing, Swami Kriyananda. This week, the affirmation is security. Man struggles all his life to store up treasures for himself, to ensure his property against loss and his health against the devastations of disease. He rests his faith in outward measures and sees not that such faith is like asking a wave to not move. Security is his alone whose faith rests in the Lord. Most practical of men is he who offers his life to God, praying, "My safety is thy responsibility, Lord." This does not mean we should not be conscientious, but after doing our very best, we should leave the worrying to God. If you feel to, repeat after me with a strong, affirmative, conscious voice. I live in the fortress of God's inner presence.
I live in the fortress of God's inner presence.
Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me.
Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me.
Once again, with a strong voice. I live in the fortress of God's inner presence.
I live in the fortress of God's inner presence.
Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me.
Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me.
Now, a little softer with a speaking voice. I live in the fortress of God's inner presence.
I live in the fortress of God's inner presence.
Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me.
Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me.
And now softer, almost a whisper. I live in the fortress of God's inner presence. Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me. And a softer whisper, taking it deeper into the spiritual eye. I live in the fortress of God's inner presence. Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me. Now take this awareness even deeper to the eye of infinity, the superconscious level presence, and silently, mentally affirm, I live in the fortress of God's inner presence. Nothing and no one can break through these walls and harm me. And keeping the eyelids closed, if you feel to silently pray, I accept whatever comes, Lord, as coming from thy hands. I know that it comes in blessing, for I am thine, and as thou art ever mine. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Nice to see some awake and ready souls here. And the reading today is called The Law is Perfected in Love. And this is from, in case there's anybody who's new and unfamiliar, this is from Swami Kriyananda and from the book The Rays of the One Light, which show how the teachings of the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, the universality of both of those teachings, those great teachings of the world. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your own deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 1, we read, the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Grace means the power to rise spiritually. Truth means the experience of divine realities, not the application in the outer world of that inner experience. Divine love is the soul's experience of oneness with God. Kindness is the human manifestation of that love. Grace is deeper than mere kindness. Wisdom is a divine experience. Justice to all is a human law, though divinely inspired. It follows as consequence of the experience of wisdom. Truth goes deeper than mere justice. While following the law, we should strive always to trace it back to its origins in the vision of God. Therefore, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita urges the devotee not to be satisfied with spiritual precepts alone, but to go beyond them to the direct inner experience of truth. In the 18th chapter of that great scripture, he says, "Nay, but once more, take my last word, my utmost meaning have. Precious thou art to me, right well beloved. Listen, I tell thee for thy comfort this. Give me thy heart, adore me, serve me, cling in faith, and love and reverence to me. So shalt thou come to me, I promise true, for thou art sweet to me. And let go those rights and writ duties. Fly to me alone. Make me thy single refuge. I will free thy soul from all its sins. Be of good cheer." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning, everyone. It is such a joy to be with all of you after such a long time. And I apologize for my absence. So we will start with a poem from Master's Book of Prayers and Poems, Whispers from Eternity. Divine Mother, come thyself into the waiting temple of our love. Divine Mother, be thou the only flame shining on the altar of our hearts. Burn away any darkness that lurks there. Divine Mother, be thou the only fragrance rising with the incense of our love for thee. Permeate any dark nook in the hearts also of those we love. In our tears of love for thee, wash away what attraction we feel for material objects. In our tears of communion with thee, wash away all the sorrows of earth forevermore. Divine Mother, unite our separate hearts into one great love wherein thy omnipresence can rest forever and forever. Teach us to behold our latent perfection in the clear mirror of thy divinity. Let the altar flame of our love for thee rise in triumph, shaming the little hissing sparks of all earthly desires. O Divine Mother, may our love be a shooting star, racing gloriously through dark skies of forgetfulness, cutting its way through dark thunderclouds of worldly preoccupation. Divine Mother, a million distractions have come to lure us away from thoughts of thee. Thou thyself, in order to test us, hast offered false substitute fulfillments, pompous temple ceremonies to satisfy the ego needs of worldly people, religious organizations shouting, salvation can come only through serving this work, priests and ministers offering the gospel, God will bless you if you give us money. O Mother, I have done with such outward shows in thy name. I await thee now in the inner temple of my love. Steal softly into the silent temple, Mother. With lambent flame banish the darkness of my long ignorance and grant me safety in thy ever-shining bliss. So our topic today is the law is perfected in love. The law is perfected in love. Well, we all know about this duality of laws and rules and the heart, the love, right? And while it's easy to say that throw away the rules, who cares for rules? We don't need laws. It's love that matters, and it is true. It's love in the long run. At the very end, it is love. But we live in this finite world. We have this finite body. We have finite, limited means, and we have to work this, right? So, which is why even though we know God is infinite, we need pictures, we need finite points to focus our love and devotion. Similarly, we need rules. We need some kind of laws. Especially, I was thinking, I live in a place which is infested with peacocks. And some people are jealous of us, actually. They say, oh, how wonderful it is to live with peacocks. Talk to anyone who lives with peacocks. I know the truth. So in my whatever little effort of making a garden, every time I plant a little sapling, guess what? The peacocks come. So I need to put a barrier around it, right? And it's important, especially when the sapling is young and growing. So that's when rules are really important, and we have to make it for ourselves because it gives us discipline. Imagine somebody who's very new on any endeavor. It could be a student starting out. It could be a spiritual seeker. And if you don't have some guidelines and you don't follow those guidelines strictly, and those are strictly for ourselves only, we don't impose those guidelines on others, but it's important. And as the sapling grows stronger and stronger and becomes the big tree, it becomes really evident that hedge is not needed anymore. Rules don't apply then. It naturally falls off, and it's the masters that can change those rules because they know how to change the rules, and it is not up to us to change the rules. So love is the goal, whereas those rules is the path. We should not mix up the path with the goal. And as we get stronger on the path, we begin to understand what it is all about. I subscribe, I'm kind of attached to this group called Doctors Without Borders. You guys probably some of you have heard of them. They are a wonderful group of doctors. I think they're a French organization, but they are all over the world and have all doctors working for them. And they're everywhere. Anywhere there is strife, there is war going on, or human created or natural disasters, they are there the first and they start working. So recently on Valentine's Day, where we just celebrated love last week, I got an email from them, and they are right now, some of you probably have heard of the crisis that's going on in Bangladesh with the Rohingya, the immigrants. So imagine hundreds and thousands of people who have been uprooted from their home in Burma, Myanmar, and right now they're in Bangladesh. And Doctors Without Borders is there serving. And this was the title of the email was Doctor Moved by Love. And it really caught my eye, because you really don't hear such things associated with doctors. So the story goes that there's this little girl of 10 years old, and they gave a picture, and she looks even younger than her age because of malnutrition, and she has the deadly tetanus infection, and it has reached to such a proportion, it has reached her central nervous system, and she really can't do anything. She just lies there and has a lot of twitching going on. And so I think the doctor, they served her, they came into the camp, and the doctor was serving them and trying his best, gave all the medication, and then noticed the father was right next to her, and he was softly crying. And the girl looked around, and she could hardly move her body, leave alone talk. So she looked at her father and wanted to be with him. So the doctor lifted her and just placed the little body on the father's lap. And then he says, I saw a miracle. The twitching stopped, and he could feel the power of love. And such is the power of love. And we know this because, we've heard stories of Yogananda. Remember that story of how his love just looked into the eyes of the thieves and murderer at the another place, several occasions. He would look at them with so much love in his eyes that their consciousness would change. They would drop their weapons and say, what have you done to me? And that would change their life. Such is the power of love. Stronger than any weapon in the world. So what do we do? How do we bring that love in? Well, we see historically, and every time we have come to a point, as a mankind, as a whole, we have come to a point where we need help. We do get help from God. God sends these souls out. So looking back again a little bit about rules and how they applied and helped us historically. So the 10 Commandments, right? It comes from Moses. When the Jews as a group, as a nation, they were trying to find spirituality, and that's the point. They were a big group of tribes, Israeli tribes, and they needed rules because we are starting out. It's like fresh ground. You have to till it. You have to throw the weeds out. You have to prepare the ground. So those 10 Commandments came, and they were very. You can say Moses was a master. He knew all about love, but he didn't preach love in that way because that was a time when the rules were needed. And then, as on that journey, that nation, as it developed, and some of them developed more, went deeper more, and called out for more, it is then that the next step happened, the next stage happened. Jesus came into the picture. Jesus, the preacher of love, came into the picture and took those group of people that were ready and told them this is how you can go deeper. Same thing we find happened in Bengal, in India. You can imagine this was the late 18th century, the beginning of the 19th century. It was strife with darkness and ignorance, and there was a section, the top section of the society, and caste system has broken. Caste system can be so beautiful, but caste system, anything can be taken to both extremes. And caste system had fractured the society. The upper castes had taken complete advantage and has pushed the rest of the society into darkness. And at that point, when rituals, because guess what, the priest class can dominate through fear. And that's exactly what was happening. You have to give so much money and do these rituals, otherwise God will be angry and will, this bad luck will come upon you and your loved ones. At that point comes Ramakrishna. And his message is very simple. He says, forget those rituals. Love. That's the only language that God understands. Imagine you and God as a child and mother. That's what he preached, God in the form of Divine Mother. And very simple. And then fast forward so many years, hundreds of years, and here we are coming away from Kali Yuga, the depths of the dark ages of Kali Yuga, and ascending into Dwapara, the energy age, and here comes Master. And so we see the same message of love is encased in little bit different outward form, but the core is the same. And we'll talk about Master's message in a little bit. But at the same time, we have to remember Krishna is warning us that don't talk about this fact that love is the simple love is the straightest path to God, and you really don't need rules. You can throw away rules, but don't talk about this to everybody, because they may not be ready for it. Because people could take advantage and say, you told us no rules, right? So we're not really going by the rules. So here comes Master, and he brings with us these teachings, And people are so hungry, they're so thirsty. I was listening to the minister's retreat. It was broadcasted from the village yesterday. And Jaya, one of the leaders from India, was talking about how they cannot keep up with the amount of need that is coming up from the people there. And they're falling short of people. It's like hundreds of people sending emails, and they want to know more, they want to do more, they want to take these classes, they want to go deep. And this is not only India, it's all over the world. And yes, we are seeing a lot of disturbances all around us, but I think partly those disturbances are, you know how they say it's a strife of light and dark. We have come to that cusp now. We're going to go completely into Dwapara, and right before that, this last tug of war of the good and the bad is happening, and people want to find their way out. As things grow more difficult, guess what? Where we turn? There's only one way to turn, and so people are all turning in that way and saying, we need to know. We want to get out of this trouble. We want light in our lives. So comes the question of where do we fit into all of this, right? How do we bring in love in our lives, and what role does love play in our lives? Well, I think we can, again, going back to Master's teachings, the more we meditate, the more we actually feel that love, because that love, what is that nature of divine love? That divine love is very stilling. When we think about God's love, we contemplate that, it makes us still inside. It's very calming. It's not very exciting and does not bring up a lot of disturbances in our minds. As we grow still, we begin to feel the true nature of that love that does not ask or need anything for itself. It just wants to give selflessly. And its natural quality is to expand and reach out. It doesn't want to stay within. There's no selfishness in that love. And we do see glimpses of that love in our lives. And whenever we do, when we are serving selflessly, doesn't matter what we are doing outwardly, we can experience this love. And I think it is important to experience it first in our meditation, in our inner communion, to get a real nature, because it's easy to get, when we say love, there's so many images of love that come, right? This is a world of delusion, and we have to work our way through it. Even in love, ego comes out. Every time the I comes in, the love, that is ego. And we have to be aware of that. So the best way out is to go in. We cannot do this outwardly. So our first job is to turn inwards, strengthen that inner life, strengthen, make it stronger, as Master would say. Meditate even deeper than you did yesterday. And then tomorrow you will meditate a little bit more deeper than you meditated today. And that's the way to begin. And then I think inevitably, as our inner life gets transformed, because love changes our consciousness. When we experience that, it just changes who we are. And then it just simply spills over, and our outward life also changes. And how do we bring it outward? Because how long are we meditating, right? 2 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, few minutes, 3 hours. We all have lives. We live in the city. We have lives to lead. We have responsibilities. What are we doing at that time? 24 hours, let's say we're sleeping for 6 to 8 hours. That leaves about, 16 hours? 18 hours? What are we doing? Are we sharing that love? Are we sharing that vibration? Because guess what? It does not need words. We cannot pretend to be who we are not. I'm beginning to realize this truth so much these days. I look at myself and I look at people around us. The truth is so evident. And it doesn't need words to communicate that. If I see somebody that inspires me, I don't really need to intellectualize why I got inspired. There's some kind of communication happen at a level of energy, and I think love, because love is the universal language. Recently, by the way, a book is coming out, and you guys should all go out and buy a lot of it. It's called A Touch of Light. No, Touch of Joy, sorry. Touch of Light was their first book, written by Jyotisha Devi. And I had the privilege of reading. I'm still not done reading, but it's an amazing book. And then I think it's the second article. She talks about how you can talk to anything with love. And talks about, and we know about these people who are gifted and they can talk, and these are animal whisperers and horse whisperers and people. That's the language of love. Plants. There are so many scientists who vouched for that plants are very responsive, and we too know, if you grow plants, you know, some people are just killers of plants. It's amazing. Plants will not thrive, no matter how good the soil is and how much water we give. And then there are people that plants just love to be around them. So these are living, conscious beings. And they respond, guess what, to love. If you're given good doses of love to your plants, I can tell you, I have such a friend. People who have green thumbs, if you look deeper into their lives, they have a deep love connection with plants. They love plants, and plants love them back. And then finally, she's also talking about even what so-called inanimate objects, rocks. They have consciousness. And we can communicate with, so you can imagine if we are communicating with inanimate objects, how much more we can communicate with more animated beings. And that deep root of connection that connects us with all is love. And the more we realize this, and the more we share this vibration. So I could be doing anything. Doesn't matter what we are doing. We are driving in our LA highways and just sending out love. We could be little beacons of love. And we may think that this is impractical. You know, who's going to get affected by these beacons of love that you're sending out, going on roads or wherever you are? It is more powerful than the word, and we have to experiment. So if you are sitting across somebody and not saying anything, and I do this all the time with my students, and I can really promise you and not everyone will feel it, because you have to be in tune too. You have to feel that vibration too. I can tell you so many times my students, they're doing something. Usually my favorite time to go around the classroom and blessing them and sending love is when they're doing something. So they're all quiet, and many times people just will look up with a little, like, questioningly at me, like, "Can you do something right now?" And it is real. It is more real than so many things we hold real in our lives. So, and I think as we grow in that love, it's that center, and everything just happens sort of on its own in a way, and it just blooms and it grows and gets stronger, and that love will make us free. Because I was thinking of, some of you know this, I love to think in pictures come to me, and I was thinking, we are like balloons, right? We are trying to rise up and free ourselves, and God's grace is that hot air, is that gas, is that helium that is lifting us. But why aren't we flying? Because something is holding us back. And what is that thread? Our ego, our attachments, our desires. And love is that big scissor that's just going to cut that and make us free. And that is the role of love in our life.
Out of the darkness, Mother, bathe me in thy light. Bathe me in thy light. Come out of the darkness, Mother, bathe me in thy light. Bathe me in thy light. me in thy love.